Earth Atlantis definitely has an interesting vibe. The way the game looks is unique. They call it an old school sketching style, which is supposed to match up with those old sea maps that have monsters. You know the ones, right? In this game, the world is in ruins, and machines have morphed into sea creatures because it's some sort of water world now, and that's really cool too. Some of those machines really went for it with an arsenal of weapons. Now, let it be known here that if I was a mechanical monster, I would also go for it and be the biggest, baddest, most weaponized monster in the sea. I assume they built themselves, so it just makes those simple fish you swim by and shoot really weak. Anyway, you're a sub-captain that is tasked with hunting down all those badass machines. But don't worry, along the way you'll kill a ton of smaller enemies too. You drive around in a very maze-like map. It loops back around on itself, and there are dead ends. It's a bonus to memorize some of it. There are some landmarks, but I really wish there were more. The map doesn't help since it only shows a general sense of the direction you need to go in. There are only 3 things displayed on the map: you, your next target or targets, and items. So expect to be frequently lost. I went down so many paths expecting it to be the correct one, only to have to backtrack all the way around to a slightly different but very similar looking pathway. So when you finally do find a big monster, it gets a lot more exciting. However, that ends quickly. The monsters have a basic pattern that you have to figure out, and then it's easy to finish them off. I've only had a few that were tricky, and I did die a couple times. Earth Atlantis is generous about respawns at the last buoy and doesn't punish you too much. You lose some power, but it will drop from enemies again very quickly. This is where memorizing the map comes in handy. After you die, you'll have to navigate back to the boss and try not to take the wrong path again. So there are those power-up Ps that power up your ship, which you can only see if your default gun is getting bigger or more shots. There are also 3 different side weapons to choose from. It all depends on which letter you collect. Also, if you collect more of the same weapon, it gets stronger. Now, I didn't find any of them to change how I play. No stats are given, so who knows if one is stronger than the other. Anyway, in quest mode, you are continually hunting until you've defeated all the bosses. They do get progressively harder as the game turns into more of a bullet hell. Do note that they recycle bosses too. Same skin and patterns with more powers, which equals more to dodge. Which, for a game this short, where the only exciting element is the bosses, I find that to be disappointing, especially with how many marine animals that could have been in the game. The small enemies are obviously cannon fodder to drop power-ups and health, so they needed to have a very cool, unique set of bosses, which you'll find out isn't the case as you progress. I imagine the developers were forcing themselves to have a certain amount of content. Look, also a note on power-ups. Your ship is getting more powerful as you pick up those Ps. There's no doubt about it. But there's a limit to that power. So your ship can only be so powerful, and you're encountering these smaller bosses at the beginning and then more complicated and difficult bosses at the end, but your ship isn't changing at all during that time. There's no progression. So you could have defeated that really hard boss at the beginning of the game because nothing has changed essentially. So what's the point? Continuing on, Earth Atlantis is secretly a bullet hell that takes a long time to get there. Finally, near the middle of the game, you'll be holding down the fire button constantly, so keep that in mind. There are random events where a pirate submarine can attack you, but it's rare. If you do defeat them, you get their sub, which doesn't seem to change too much, but does change the spread of your default weapon. Overall, Earth Atlantis is very primitive, and the style can't carry it. It's an extremely passive game that's more about getting around a maze than killing anything. Once you're there, all you have to do is solve the pattern and move on. It became so dull. I wish more pirates showed up, and I wish there was more weapon information. If the bosses got bigger from the start and more complex, it would have a lot more staying power.